Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat. Delighted to be joined by Aaron and John from TM14 Promotions. Gents, thanks for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. I know you've got a show coming up 12th of February, Brentwood Centre. Really looking forward to it. It looks like a stat card. But yeah, thanks for your time this evening. How are you both doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
nice
thank you for having us, Elliot.
No worries at all. Just wanted to confirm for people that aren't aware of TM14 Promotions, what are your guys' roles within the company? What are you doing for this show?
I'll let you start off, Aaron, if you want.
Yeah, I mean, so myself and John, we're co-promoters for TM14 Promotions. As you may or may not be aware, obviously John used to be on the other side of things, and obviously doing the interviewing through the Boxing Voice, and then obviously switched over. Now John's probably known me, just a bit of background, since I was about 9, 10. He brought me up on boxing, he got me into the sport, and we both love it thoroughly. I remember every weekend obviously going to watch it with him, and yeah, one day obviously he called me, and he thought this opportunity that we've got here, and said, why don't we obviously go co-promoting and start our own company, and here we are, obviously coming up to our second show, where it's a stat card, like you said, and yeah, we're really excited.
No, really exciting times. Really looking forward to talking about the stat card. I'm sure a lot of people watching this video are going to be aware of a lot of the fighters that are on the cards. Yeah, John, same question to you, mate. Are you able to tell us a bit more about yourself? What you're doing for TM14? By the way, is it TM14 or TM14? Just so I'm 100% correct.
No one ever asks it, Elliot, and everyone calls it TM14.
Fine.
And it's TM14.
Good to know.
So you'll be the first person who's asked, the first person who got it right, mate.
No, good to know.
We have to rebrand it. We have to spell the 1 and the 4.
Yeah, he keeps telling me, let's change it and write the word 1 and 4 so that everyone gets it right. But yeah, no, so Aaron's kind of hinted at it. We've both been boxing fans for a long time. I got into the industry about 2 years ago, doing very similar to what you do. I work for the Boxing Voice in the media side. So I went to all the fights, the press conference, the weigh-ins. I've been to lots of gyms. I've met loads of fighters and interviewed some top names, household names. And then I kind of thought, well, I've got a lot of contacts now. It'd be a great idea to try promoting, which is something I've always dreamt of, but I always thought it was a dream. Yeah, so I rang Aaron and said, look, do you fancy this? I'm not sure it's as easy as people think it is. Sometimes you just turn up, or a promoter just turns up and does the interviews on the night or sits in the front row, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And yeah, as I said, we've got great relationships, which I'm sure we'll come into during the call, that's enabled us to do our first event, which was a huge success. And now we're hoping to build on that. We got our big second one due in Brentwood, which we're going to talk about. And we'll probably tell you about some future dates that we've got locked in as well.
Yeah, no, really exciting. Just before we get onto the night itself, I've just got to ask, how are the stress levels at the moment? Obviously, COVID is still fairly rampant in this country. You've got a lot of fighters on. What have you had in the way of kind of dropouts, people getting COVID at this stage? How's the show looking in that sense?
I'll let you go, Aaron, if you want.
Yeah, no, I think things obviously constantly changing with the government. I mean, look, we just stay up to date with things and keep everyone informed, the fighters, the trainers, managers, etc., of the sort of hoops that we need to jump through. And as it stands, obviously, we have to do all the COVID testing, the lateral flow. So yeah, the stress levels are quite high. Obviously, that's not the only thing going on. There's about 1,000,001 things that we're covering at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it's all part and parcel of it, really. And myself and John, after the first one, we're always constantly learning, and I think we will be. But yeah, it's a good experience.
Yeah, we've had. I won't mention who, Elliot, but we've had an opponent pull out for one of our fighters today in answer to your question. So it wasn't COVID. I think the opponent has fallen down running on ice by all accounts this morning. So I think things change daily. Sometimes someone pulls out, as Aaron mentioned, COVID rules kind of change. We have to do a lot with like local councils. So we've had meetings with Brentwood, from a health and safety point of view, you've got to make sure everything's on point there. There's so much that goes into it, as we've mentioned. The exciting bit is assembling the card. We've had the card assembled for a while. We'll probably talk about the fighters on there in a minute, but it's really disheartening when you think, oh, someone's pulled out. We had Amy Andrew a lady. She's only 2-0, bless her. She's from New Zealand, but a real top prospect for the future. And she was due out on the card. And we actually had a really good opponent for her. They were both winning records, where the winner probably would have had a good fight next, a lady level. And she pulled out because she's got COVID herself. So I'm sure over the next week or two, we got 3.5 weeks, Aaron, to go. But there will be one or two that pull out either for an injury or COVID, which is stressful. And probably like a week of the fight, if someone pulls out for whatever reason, we might not replace them. If someone pulls out, touch wood, today or tomorrow, we have got a few people banging our door down who want to get out, as I'm sure you're aware, that we can probably call upon. But it get more stressful, mate, as the weeks go on.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But yeah, I've got...
Especially that week before the fight.
Oh, there's last time on the week of the fight, if you get an opponent pull out or you haven't got an opponent, you sat there. You might have a fighter who sold a lot of tickets, for example, and he's got a lot of fans coming, and a fighter pulls out, and you're like, how do you ring that fighter up and tell them that they're not fighting? But I think it's part and parcel of the job and the game, and most fighters know that.
Yeah. Well, got our fingers crossed for you here. But looking forward to seeing as many fights as possible on February the 12th. So get straight into it. There's a few fighters I want to talk about. First person on the list is Ashley Sexton. Former British champion, had a bit of time out the ring. I know he's just scheduled to be in a 6-rounder in February 12th, but what do you think? How well do you know Ashley, and what do you think he's got left in his career? And do you think we're going to see him fighting on more of your shows in the future?
That's a great question. I'll take that, Aaron, if that's all right.
I
know Ashley myself very well. So I met Ashley about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, in his gym down in the Hot Box in Hertfordshire. Bear Cages, it's also known. Great gym, by the way. Shout out for Sab Leo and Alex Leo, who are the head trainer, and Son, the assistant trainer in there. Ashley had a fantastic amateur pedigree. I think he was sort of like in with the likes of George Groves, your Billy Joe Saunders around there. He had a great start to his career. He's probably most famously known, for those that want to go and YouTube him, I think he's got 1 million views. Yeah, you're nodding, Elliot. 1 million views for where he fought a guy whose ring walk would make Nassim Hamid's like timid. And then he just knocked him out cold. And it was just like one of those, wow. Ashley then decided to have a family and sort of like take a dip out of sport for a few years. He's got more kids than me, which is saying something, to be fair. So he sort of like took a break, and then obviously his passion and his enthusiasm for the sport has brought him back. He's into his 30s, Ashley, now. He is still very fit and very good for his age. He's not ring worn. As you mentioned, he's been a British champion before. He's got a fantastic record. He's building himself back. We've got him on this big show. We were hoping to get Ashley in some kind of a title fight. Sadly, that didn't come off for one reason or another. We have got an opponent for him that's pretty much confirmed the last day or so. His opponent is a Ghanaian who comes with a very good winning record. He's 21 wins and 5 defeats. So we expect a good challenge there, but we expect Ashley to come through that. We have the Brentwood Centre booked again in June, which Ashley is banging on our door going, I want coming out on every show. He wants to be out in Cardiff with us and Southampton, which we'll talk about in a bit. But he will hopefully be with us on the journey, and hopefully we'll have him in title fight or 1 or 2. I think at Ashley's weight, he's fighting at super flyweight. If there aren't a billion fighters out there, if he wins a couple of good scraps, he's right in the hunt for, he's got his eye on like Casey Kadimi and Ijaz Ahmed, right? So that they'll fight for the British and Commonwealth in a rematch. He believes he wins that. I believe it's a 50-50 fight against either, and he's got a great chance. And Ashley wants to fulfill that ambition, and good luck to him, and we'll enjoy the journey with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great story. We've spoken to Ashley a little bit on Instagram, but yeah, it was great to see him back in the ring a while back, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what's left, really. Cool. Second person I'm going to come on to, I think how we got speaking was I did an interview with Liam Wells a couple of weeks ago. He's in the 50-50 fight. We can just put it that way, against Chavez Campbell. 2 prospects, 2 good fighters. One of you able just to kind of give me a breakdown of that fight? I think it's brilliant. I think it's prospect against prospect, and we don't see enough of these fights. We see guys who want to get to 11, 12 and 0 before fighting someone who's of a good level, and these guys aren't doing that. They're kind of going, both suffered a loss in their careers, and they're both going straight back at it. But yeah, how would you put this fight in a nutshell?
I'll let you get that one, Aaron, if you want.
Yeah. No, I think obviously, thank you first of all for MTK for letting us have Liam Wells on the card. I think, yeah, like you said, it is two great prospects. Obviously, going out in a 50-50 fight, and you don't really get that these days. Obviously, you still get these journeymen that come in. So, but it's great to both fighters, obviously, putting it all on the line and going against each other. I mean, I think it'll be a cracking fight on the night. And yeah, it's something that we are looking forward to. And that's what myself and John want to do, not just in this show but in future shows, is just put on the 50-50 fight, and we want everyone to, obviously, when they come to watch the shows, to be excited and see these fights where it's not just always the journeyman and sort of climbing the ranks like that. Is in these 50-50 fights, where it is exciting and people want to come and watch the shows. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a great fight.
And yeah, and is it?
I'll just add on that, Elliot. I'll just add on that. Sorry, Chavez was slated in to fight Josh Adewale, who were both had winning records. Josh sadly had to pull out for injury, which hopefully will work with Josh again in the future. But what then happened? We had Liam Wells on the card, and we were looking for an opponent. Spoke to Liam's manager, Lee Eaton, who's been brilliant with us and giving us his fighters. I was like, "How do you fancy taking on Chavez Campbell?" So clearly, Lee's job as a manager is to go and speak to the fighter. And I think he started it off with, "How do you fancy fighting someone with a winning record?" And true story, Liam Wells was like, "Yeah, I'll have it." Didn't even want to know who the name was, to be fair. Yeah. So credit to Liam. And like Aaron's mentioned, our job is to put on a show for the fans, as well as obviously help the fighters in terms of their careers. So we got 3 or 4 fights on there that are pretty much either 50-50 or title fight that we might come on to in a minute. That fair play to Liam and Chavez. I think that is a 50-50 fight. You know, Liam's probably the favourite on paper, MTK fighter, a bit more experienced. But listen, Chavez, he comes to win. He's got a winning record. He's out of the gym in Neasden. I think his trainer is Xavier Miller. You know, good links in there, as I'm sure you're aware. So he'll be ready, and it'll be a great fight, that.
Yeah, I think that's the fight I'm looking forward to the most personally. Cool. Yeah, there's still lots to talk about. Another fight that I think, another 50-50, Jack Martin, Tommy Jacobs, 2 undefeated fighters. Again, one that, I'm kind of struggling to predict, to be honest. I know more about Tommy Jacobs than I do Jack Martin, to be completely honest with you both. But yeah, if you don't mind, if you could again, just kind of tell us what you know about that fight and what fans should expect from that fight.
Yeah, John, shall I take this one? Yeah,
you carry on, mate.
Yeah. Another cracking, I think, 50-50 fight. Obviously, Tommy Jacobs out of the hot box as well under Sab and Alex. And then you've got Jack Martin, MTK, 4-0. Obviously, he's had 2 more fights than Tommy, but his last fight, I believe, he beat Indabasi as well, 1 point, which is a great victory there. I think it's just another one where I think this is what I was talking about previously, is that we want to put on these sort of 50-50 fights, and this is just another one. But yeah, I mean, you could argue that obviously Jack Martin's got the slightly more experience, having 2 more fights, but they're still both undefeated fighters, and they're both coming to win. So it'll be another great fight to watch.
Yeah, he's got a point. Again, I know Tommy. I've known Tommy a long time, whereas Aaron hasn't as much. But he grew up through the amateurs with Ashley Sexton, hence why they're in the same gym with the same trainer. As an amateur, again, he was knocking around with Billy Joe Saunders, your George Groves. His amateur pedigree is amazing. I'm sure Tommy would be the first one to tell you that he had a few misdemeanors, is probably the right word, in his personal life, and that stopped him fighting professionally for 9 on 10 years. He's now trying to make a go of it as a pro. He's the other side of 30 again, I understand. And he's like, "I ain't got time to mess around, John. I want good 50-50 fights." And, you know, Jack Martin, credit to him, when he went in against Indabasi, they were both MTK fighters. I think probably a lot of people expected Indabasi to win that. That was a bit of a bloodbath if you haven't seen it. And Jack came through. And I spoke to Jack the other day on the phone, as I have a couple of times, and I'm like, "Who's favourite there? I think people might have you down as favourite, Jack." And he went, "I'm not favourite." He goes, "I'm the underdog. That's the way I always treat myself." You know, and Tommy doesn't take anyone lightly either. So I'm not saying I have a favourite fight I'm looking forward to, but that one for me, I'm very interested to see how that goes, because, 50-50 is probably bang on, to be fair.
Yeah. Just touching on Tommy Jacobs, I think we're hoping to get some time with him before fight night. So fingers crossed. But I know he's only 2-0. I think, as you said, he's in his 30s now. Unlike Ashley Sexton, he's not had much of a pro career, as Ashley Sexton's kind of already achieved a lot of things in the pro game. But Do you know what his expectations are to achieve as a pro, and how long he expects to be pro for? And does he, because of obviously having time so long out the ring, does he expect to kind of fight into his late 30s and it maybe into his 40s perhaps? What are your expectations?
Well, he's definitely not ring worn because he hasn't fought for a long time now. For those that do the homework on him, and you probably have, Elliot, he actually fought a lot of sort of like fights across the world, I think, that just weren't recognised as professional fights because he couldn't get a license. So he's definitely experienced, but I think he's just acknowledged that because of what's happened in his personal life, and he's lost 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it was, Ashley had that time as an example. And when you're sitting the other side of 30, he could sit there like many prospects do at the age of 20, 21, 24 and say, oh, I want a nice, easy tune-up fight. I want someone that I know I'm going to win, who's going to take me a few rounds. But he's like, just put me in there with him. And from Aaron and I's point, I think I took the call on it and I was like, Aaron, this fella just wants a 50-50 fight, which is great for us because it means that the fans win. Because that doesn't happen, as Aaron just said, very often. People would like to build up that CV that says I'm 6-0, I'm 8-0, that starts putting them towards like Southern area or wherever the area is, title fights. Tommy's like, get me in there. And Jack, to be fair, was like, I'll take the fight. Nice and easy, a match make, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's exciting in a way because, they are going to be up for everything. They're not in a position to kind of say no or push back on fights. So what we have of his career, I think is definitely going to be exciting. Cool. So
both fighters will definitely leave it on the line there, Elliot, that's for sure. And not giving you a sales pitch. Not giving a sales pitch for anyone listening, but I think you've got North Essex against South Essex, or however they're building it up, both undefeated. So it'll be a good show for the fans.
Yeah, no, definitely. Not a good one. Cool. Just a couple more from me. One guy who, I'm a big fan of personally, Boy Jones Jr. Returns. Feels like it wasn't long ago at all, really. He was fought Conor Marsden for the Southern Area title at York Hall. Didn't win that fight, but that's probably the best fight I've seen since we were allowed to go back to shows, to be honest. So kind of 6 months is probably the best fight I've seen in the flesh. Really great fight, and well on him for coming back into the ring so soon. Returning in a 6th rounder, but similar sort of question to what I've been asking. Boy Jones Jr. Isn't 34. He's probably more like 24, 25, maybe even younger, I imagine, but he's had a couple of losses. What do you think we can expect from his career? What sort of level do you think he can return to? I know he's a former Southern Area champion. I personally kind of rate him quite highly, but what are your opinions on what we can expect for the next couple of years from him?
I'll grab that one out. Yeah, no worries. So look, I'll be honest with you, Elliot. We don't know Ben, or Boy Jones, as he likes to be known, that well. We've had a fantastic opportunity where we can put him on our card. So when we sort of like, I know about Ben anyway, but I was like, yes, please, we'll have him. Yeah. He's a massive ticket seller, which clearly at the level we're at is a massive, important thing for all shows. It means his fans get out, he earns some money, it helps us pay the bills. He's got a fantastic pedigree, as you've mentioned. If you go through BoxRec, he's fought on many a Frank Warren shows. I think the fact he's been inactive kind of the last couple of years, I think what you're probably going to see from Ben is let's get your back out there and get your, not your confidence levels up as such, but let's get you winning. And then probably in the next couple of fights, hopefully that's on our journey, but maybe not because of his pedigree. It might end up on TV shows. I could see Ben back in some title fights before you know it, maybe 2 or 3 fights down the line. I love his enthusiasm. Do you know what? He's such a cheeky chappy as well. He's a typical Essex boy. And no wonder he sells a load of tickets, really. But yeah, we're honoured to have him on the card. Yeah, no, really exciting. I think one thing about Ben is he's quite unique in the sense he's just obviously very tall for the weight. And I think he's got kind of grown into the weight more and more as he's gotten that bit older. And he's had, for someone of his age, he's had so many fights. He's been around for so long. But I'm hoping there's plenty more to come from him. It's cool. So I think final guy I wanted to speak to you about was Billy Ellington, who again wasn't that long ago, but is the current Southern Area champion. Beat Jemani Camero at York Hall. This is his return to the ring. Are you able to tell us what sort of opponent he's going to be up against? Is this just a simple keep busy fight from him? And do you think you're going to be working with him more in the future? That's definitely one for Aaron, because Billy's Aaron's boy. Over to you, mate.
No, yeah, we've got a great relationship with Billy and obviously the Peacock Gym with Martin. Shout out to Martin as well. Thank you for obviously letting us have him on the card. We can't go too much into his opponent just yet, but it's definitely one I would say to keep an eye on. But yeah, it should be a cracker. I would say, give it 24, 48 hours, John, would you say? And you should see something on social media. But it's going to be a great fight. And yeah, the fans are going to love it.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say watch for the next 48 hours. Hopefully something a little bit better than Southern area. And we'll leave it at that.
Exciting times. We're looking forward to the announcement. But that was mostly it from me, but I wanted to kind of give the floor to you guys now. And is there anyone you wanted to speak about, to shout out? Anyone who someone might not be aware of who's going to the show, who they should watch when they're there? Who did you want to talk about?
I think from there, I mean, you've singled out you've done your own work, Elliot, and you've probably picked the 50-50 fights and sort of like the bigger names on there, but there's some great names on there. I could sit here all night. You've got some top MTK prospects. We've got 6 MTK fighters on there, and they're always great fighters. Again, they're usually good ticket sellers as well. So thank you to Lee Eaton for letting us have them. We've got another Peacock fighter on there, so Ellis Zorro. You might not have got that if you've done your homework on BoxRec. We announced him last week, I think, Aaron. That Ellis Zorro is a cruiserweight for anyone not aware. I think he's 10-0, is he, Aaron?
Yeah, 10-0, 5 knockouts, I think. Frank Warren, yeah. Last night on there, yeah, your Frank Warren card, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah, go on, John.
No, I was just going to say, bang on this, but that's a big addition for us. We've got a few debutants on there. So Alfie Winter, he's trained out of the Matchroom Gym. He's trained by Kevin Mitchell. So he's sparring Conor Ben like Daly, Joe Cordina, those kind of people. You can't buy that experience. There's a few other lads on there as well that are on debutants that are selling loads of tickets. So we've got a mixture, if you like, of the experience on there. Like you say, you're Ashley Sexton. You've got some top prospects who are already TV fighters in like Ellis Zorro. Hopefully a nice big title fight for Billy, some 50-50 matches and some debutants. It makes for a good card. We're open to sell it out. So if anyone wants any tickets, go direct to the fighters. We have still got some left, or come direct to us and DM us on TM14 because we have got some left. It's going to be a good night.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, you said it was just, yeah, you make me look forward to the show even more now. I think the final question from me is, you mentioned shows in Southampton and Cardiff earlier, but what does the next kind of 2, 3, 4 months look like for TM14? How many shows are you going to have? And yeah, where are you going to be located?
I'll grab this one, John. Yeah. I mean, hopefully very busy the next 4, 5, 6 months. We're looking, obviously, we've got our next one out in Cardiff in March. And then after that in April, we're looking to have Southampton. We just need a venue lined up for that one. But we've got more in the pipeline. We're back at Brentwood in June. And we're sort of, we're looking to go all over. We're not sticking to one sort of area. We're happy to travel. So obviously we've gone to Cardiff, we've had Northampton, then we're down in Essex, down in Southampton. So we're all over the place. And we just want to put on good shows for the fans. Like we said earlier, the 50-50 fights, the ones that the fans want to go and see. And really make a statement sort of thing, and obviously climb the levels. There are levels in this sport which we're well aware of, and this is only our second show, so we don't want to run before we can walk. But yeah, we're just looking to put on those really statement shows, and yeah, we're happy to travel the country as long as we're putting on those good shows that the fans want to see. Then that's the main thing, really.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it all sounds really exciting. I think something that sounds really fresh. I think one thing about boxing at the moment in the UK is there's so much going on all over the country. I think now that boxing is going to be returning in February, obviously we didn't have any in January. There's going to be shows somewhere every week for the whole year. I think we'll agree on that. So it's final. Yeah, so it's really exciting to have you guys in the game, really. Yeah, I think that was mostly it from me, gents. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, shout out, discuss?
Good for me, thank you.
Yeah, all good for me.
All right, gents. Yeah, well, I really appreciate your time. all the best on February the 12th. And yeah, it'd be great to catch up again soon. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Elliot.
Thank you for having us on the show. Yeah, all the best, Elliot.
Cheers, guys. All the best. Take care.
Cheers. Take care, mate.
Bye.